What's going on, everyone? So I took a midnight flight back and we are already back to making some videos. Guys, the title of the video is not clickbait. There was some spicy stuff that happened over the weekend. We did pretty well in the tournament. We had a lot of fun, got to meet a bunch of people, and overall I want to talk about my experience over at the Galactic Championship. Despite the title suggesting otherwise, I actually had a very solid time, very fun time meeting everyone, and I can't thank everyone enough for taking their time to come out and say hi. We had a lot of people taking pictures, as well as I got to sign a bunch of cards for you all, and it was awesome to see and hear your feedback, which I want to talk about in the video as well. We're going to start off with the overall main event, which I did participate in, and of course, what the title of the video actually meant over the weekend. So let's start that saga, or this saga, there. Now, in order to set the stage for this saga, and I want to keep it relatively brief because there's not really a reason to go on and on, but it is a good portion of my experience. I went 6-1 day one, and I did very well, right? Game or match one, the only one I lost was up against the Kylo Ren Data Vault, the new Kylo Ren, which is the only matchup, the leader that is, that I really didn't want to face. My goal on this weekend was to dodge Kylo Ren because I brought Kira Data Vault. Kira Data Vault was really just a little bit better up against the more aggro matchups, and actually had a way of competing against Han Blue where you weren't going to get completely dominated in the early game if they had an aggressive start, because well, Kira can manage that a little bit better. Now, despite that, we did lose round one. We won the next 5 or 6 in a row. We got the bye on round 8 because we went 6-1 on day one, which was absolutely amazing. And then for day 2, we actually went ahead and, well, went 5-3, barely missing day 3, which was pretty awesome. So I don't know my official standings in the tournament, like in terms of number wise, and I'll go over it in just a little bit. This is my Melee profile here, definitely giving away my real name. For those of you that had met me, you already know what my real name is. But this was my results: 6-1 day one, 5-3 day 2, which was a very solid showing. And I think a lot of people weren't expecting that. So by the time I ended day 2, I got pulled aside by the head judge. I'm not going to name his name because, well, he mentioned that he didn't want to be in the public spotlight as much as he could avoid it. So I don't see a reason to mention his name, but I got pulled aside by the head judge, and he basically said, yeah, we've been having reports of people reporting you for cheating. And the claim was that my draws were too practiced, that was the exact word, and too smooth to be legitimate. That was the complaint, or that was the reasoning as to why they were being I was being reported. Now, as a result, unbeknownst of me, because I was very much focused on, taking pictures of the people, playing the games, and actually chatting with people that were really interested in saying hi. And by the way, like I said at the beginning, that was absolutely amazing. It was completely surreal, and it really was the highlight of the weekend for me, was seeing how many people really enjoyed the videos. And so I had no idea that they were launching a complete investigation into me on day 2, as far as I understand. So they were watching multiple of my games, and this wasn't like a cheating accusation where it was like I missed a Battle Fury trigger, or I missed like the way a card was supposed to be written, like a slight wording or whatever, which has happened all the time, and definitely has happened in the previous iterations of me playing like Magic at professional tournaments. That is totally understandable, and yes, it happens all the time. This was deliberate and intentional cheating that was trying to be hidden from other people, is what they claimed. Now, the reason why he spoke to me on the final round was because they had already done the investigation and proven me not guilty. Because I wasn't cheating, I was acquitted. And as I said, during day 2, they were really conducting a bunch of investigations on how I was drawing cards, what was I doing with it. I assume the kind of I guess not suggestion, but the thought was I was maybe drawing extra cards, or I was manipulating the top of my deck to draw specific cards. I don't really know what the actual result was. All I got was I was drawing too smooth and it was too practiced. And I'm not surprised that some people view that. If those of you that have never played another TCG, which most competitive players have, so I'm surprised that if this was even a question. But if you've played other TCGs, like I've played Magic for a while, there's just kind of a habit that certain players get into, and that's how you draw cards. And I've developed certain habits like that, especially with I've played all sorts of decks, like the Miracles decks and Magic. We actually talked about that, the head judge and I. He mentioned that, and I was like, yep, I've played that deck. But there's all sorts of different ways, or, you know, making sure you take your beginning phase in Magic very, very slowly and deliberately, because there's specific steps on what to do. Sagas can kind of force you to draw cards in a specific way, because you need to be doing actions just after the draw step, or, you know, responding to someone's draw step, because you can make actions in that game on their draw step. So there's just very, very deliberate decisions you make, whereas, you know, obviously in Star Wars, you gotta just draw. But I kept those habits as I've played years of Magic the Gathering, and so I just have a habit to draw in the way that I do. I guess that looks suspicious to some people, but there's the other portion of it, and I think this is really where it's steeped in, is a lot of people view me as this casual player, and they should, because that's what I do on my channel. I'm here to have some fun, here to get some games in, and I'm here to just jam whatever deck I see, and oftentimes make mistakes with them, because, well, I'm picking up a deck, maybe I've played only like 5 or 6 games with it, and I don't really know how a lot of the matchups go, or I completely forget how some cards work, or I'm playing too fast where I miss things. It happens all the time. I laugh at myself for my own videos after the fact. That's kind of the point of them. It's for everyone to have a good time, and people weren't expecting me to perform well. I already knew that. I know the kind of the general community consensus on my playing capabilities. So there is a portion of it, and even the head judge mentioned, like, hey, I wanted to give you a forewarning just in case there were people that were deliberately targeting you. And you might see like a Reddit post tomorrow. I just wanted you to be prepared, because, you know, you don't want to wake up to that. That's like literally what he said word for word. So I was like, okay, that's also my thought, is there is a portion of this that I may have been just targeted because of me making videos, and they didn't expect me to even play well, which it is what it is. But it definitely soured my opinion a little bit on the competitive community. Not everyone, because I met, and I'll talk about it later, but it just definitely soured my experience. I mean, of course, why wouldn't it? If anyone got accused of cheating and had a full investigation launched against them, I'm sure that would, you know, kind of sour anyone's competitive experience. So it was a little bit unfortunate, because I had a lot of fun. You know, day one was a lot of fun, and most of the people, I don't know who was reporting me. I don't know if it was the matchups I was fighting or someone else on the side, because there were people watching me the entire day, just because people were seeing me play, and they were like, hey, do you mind if I record, or do you mind if I take a picture? Do you mind if I sit on the sidelines and watch? And I didn't mind at all, because I'm super used to people watching my gameplay. So I don't know who reported me, and it doesn't really matter. The important part is, well, I didn't cheat, and, well, I assumingly had good games, and I hope that whoever I fought against had a good time, and they weren't off put by any way because of whatever match we played. I felt like in general, most of the matchups I had, you know, we had a good back and forth, and we had a good kind of rapport built for the community matches, because in general, the competitive community, while this, again, soured a little bit of my experience, in general, my experience had been overwhelmingly positive. Most people were engaging, and the games were not like feeling uncomfortable because people were losing, or someone was losing and they took it in a bad way, or I was losing and I took it in a bad way. Nothing of that really happened. So it definitely caught me off guard hearing this on day 2. But that was pretty much the story with it. You know, they accused me, they launched an investigation, they found nothing wrong, and, well, my record of 6-1 and 5-3 was legitimate. So that said, I wanted to dive into my matchups really quickly here and talk about what my experience was in the actual games that I played, and showcase the Kira deck. So now we get to talk about some fun things before I lose my voice from talking to you all over the weekend. This was what I brought. This was the exact deck list that I brought, and it performed excellently for me. I fought against a ton of different matchups, so we're going to dive into it very specifically, but really quickly on the composition of the deck. I was actually really happy with what I ended up bringing. The couple of additions that I kind of slotted in were the Supremacy Tie and the Darth Vader. Darth Vader was an immediate inclusion just because I ended up swapping out the Mauls that oftentimes people would play for Darth Vader. And I also ran, as I said, the Supremacy Ties, another option to hit off of the bigger Darth Vader. But realistically, I honestly probably could have put the Supremacy Ties in the sideboard because I ended up siding them out quite a bit. So I like the Darth Vader. The Supremacy Tie weren't that great. And overall, the rest of the deck composition was pretty solid. I think the other slight change I would have made was, well, I would have put Supremacy Ties in the sideboard, which means I would have added 2 additional cards to the main deck. One of them being Fell the Dragon, so the full 3 of in the main board for Fell the Dragon. And the other one was I probably should have put another Vigilance in the deck main board, just because there were some matchups that were really critical for it. In the sideboard, you could see what I ran, and one of the big things was, well, I had no restocks. This was me being a little bit greedy because I hadn't really played Control Mirror since set 2. And if I had been able to sit down and test more with Kira Data Vault, I would have known that the Kylo Data Vault would have shown up and would have been one to consider. But because I had no restocks, the Kylo Data Vaults who had restock was kind of like an instant win for them, because that matchup, Kylo Data Vault versus Kira Data Vault, is a Vigilance restock matchup. They oftentimes aren't running Shadowed Intentions in the sideboard, so Rivals Fall, Power of the Dark Side all kill off Kylo. Kira, even with the flip and a little bit of damage, he can kill off Kylo. Basically, the matchup goes: kill your thing, they kill my thing, kill your I kill your thing, they kill my thing, and then we just mill each other out. So that's why Kylo just ended up beating me, because they were running restocks, and it's just a Control Mirror. Aggrieved Parliamentarian came in absolutely clutch against one of the games. Even though I didn't win, it was an incredibly important sideboard card. The Traitorous were absolutely amazing up against Han in specific situations, and even solid against some Kira matchups. Relentless was just there up against some matches running a lot of events, and Annihilator was pretty solid, even up against like the Han Blues of the world, just to knock out the Crate Dragons if I had them. But also, more importantly, because it's expensive in terms of health cost to knock out the Crate Dragons with Annihilator, it was also really nice to be able to knock out like Luke's or Anakin's or anything like that, so I didn't have to worry about those. I probably would have dropped the Confiscates. I found that Confiscate didn't really do anything in my matchups. People were too worried to put upgrades down against the players that were playing Power of the Dark Side Fells and things like that. So I probably could have swapped the 2 Confiscates for 2 Supremacy Ties, and then move the Fell the Dragon and Vigilance to the main board, and then even potentially run a restock or 2 or another Aggrieved Parliamentarian, and that's how I would have formulated my sideboard. But outside of that, that's pretty much what I would have brought had I been able to modify my deck list. Now, diving into day 1, I already talked about matchup 1, but this was the Kylo Ren Data Vault matchup. By the way, I'll talk about the kind of releasing deck list in just a moment for day 2, because we're actually going to be able to see the deck list. But in my opinion on that, round 1 was Kylo Ren Data Vault versus Kira Data Vault, and it was just a case of I lost because they had restock, and in the game 1 they were able to find more Vigilances at a proper time than I was. They found the 3, and I only had 2 main deck. That's just kind of how it went. There wasn't really, I don't want to say it was unskillful, but it was my mistake not bringing restock, right? So my opponent played excellently. They made no mistakes in that matchup. They played great, and I just didn't have the right deck composition to battle their deck. It was a very poor matchup for me, and I accepted my loss. I knew I was going to lose it. I literally mentioned it a million times to people in my Patreon, and everyone I mentioned it, I'm like, please let me just dodge Kylo Ren because that's a bad matchup for me. But all the other matchups were relatively solid. I actually don't remember which person was playing which deck, but I do remember that round 2, I shouldn't say that. I remember round 2, but after that, I don't remember who was playing what. Round 2, I fought against set 1 Vader Green. Kind of a fun matchup. It was a little bit back and forth. Set 1 Vader didn't really get many things, if that, as far as I saw, nothing, I think is what they said from set 5. It's not really any better than it was before. And well, usually this matchup usually came down to the Vigilance Command Villainy player winning in the past, and I still did. After that, I fought, I know, against 2 Han Blues, 2 Talzin Reds, and then one other deck. It was a Sabine Yellow, I think. So the 2 Talzin Reds and 2 Talzin Blues, or 2 Han Blues and 2 Talzin Reds, were very much, relatively easy games. I think those matchups weren't too bad at all for me, just because for Han Blue, I had the Hylobot Enforcer to deal with Ezra or Ogdo Bogdo on turn 1 had they had it, which was a great play. But in general, it's all about a value game. Like, are they able to get enough damage in to where they could play a Crate Dragon and just annihilate me because I can't answer it. That was the way Han Blue played out. If they got 20 or so damage on the base before we got to the Crate Dragon plays, there's a very good chance I would have lost that game because I couldn't answer Crate Dragon and their other plays without taking too much damage. That was the key, especially if they had like Cassians, for example, in the resource pile. If they didn't put that much damage on, I would win the game, period, because Crate Dragon wouldn't be enough to finish out. For Talzin Red, it was value, value, value. All my stuff was really just able to kill their stuff. Vader was an absolute critical component in both these matchups. And it was really just all about, hey, can they put enough pressure on, or can they use their units to outvalue mine while I'm getting through the game? Or can I get a little bit more value and then get into that late game where every single one of my units comes down, kills their units, and does something more extravagant than them, so I just win the game very slowly. And that's what ended up happening. The Sabine was just an aggro matchup. We've seen Sabines all over the place. I happened to pull a lot of Overwhelming Barrage to knock out their units and stuff like that. So it ended up being pretty nice for that matchup, and I ended up just winning. Really, that one wasn't too complicated. Honestly, we've fought so many Sabines in the past, so it really didn't change anything. But that's kind of the gist of the matchups on day 1. On day 2, you actually might notice some of the names. We have Guy Cohen, who I fought in round 5, and even Mog TCG, who I fought in round 6. By the way, these two opponents specifically, I just want to call out as absolute amazing attitudes. Guy was 100% professional, absolutely loved playing against him, and he made some amazing plays, really, really intelligent plays that I wanted to just commend him on. I think I could have pushed him to a game 3 because I lost that round, but I messed up on game 2, and it was against probably the favorite deck of the tournament. Just an absolute banger of a deck, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, in a full video. And then Mog TCG just had an absolutely overwhelmingly amazing attitude, and is also someone that makes videos out there. So I just wanted to say a big shout out to those two individuals specifically. It was just an absolute blast to play against them. But game 1, or round 1 rather, and round 2, I went on a 2-0, beginning. First one was up against Han Green Force. And the big consensus here was Vader. Game 1, I played Vader dry, I believe it was. And I had put the shield token on Rebellious Hammerhead. And I attacked, killed the Rebellious Hammerhead, and it was just like really downward spiral from there. It was just Vader got a good amount of value. I didn't even timely it out. I played it dry, and then I just played like big Vader after that, Snokes and reinforcement walkers and all that stuff after, and I just outvalued them, and they couldn't really get back in the game. Game 2, I timely Vadered, and they just immediately conceded because they felt like they couldn't win after that. Fair enough. Vader's kind of a disgusting card. For the Han Blue, it was really all about the earlier plays. By the way, this player also had an absolutely amazing attitude. We ended up taking a picture together afterwards, but again, pretty much every one of my opponents had an overwhelmingly solid attitude for the most part. But the player here, we ended up battling it out, right? It was a 3-game series, very back and forth. It played out, like I said, with all the other Han Blue matches. If they got early damage in, they played Crate Dragon, I would lose. And if they didn't get the early damage in, I would probably just outvalue them. The next one was up against another Han Blue, and this was the only Han 2 deck that I lost against. I think I fought 2 on day 1, if I remember correctly, and then I had 1, 2, 3 on day 2. I can't remember if it was 3 day 1 and 3 day 2 or 2 day 1 and 3 day 2. It's starting to go away. I was on a midnight flight, guys. I'm sorry, I'm losing my brain here, but I was like 4-1 or 5-1 at the end of the tournament against Han 2, and this player just battled it out. Really, really amazing opponent again. I keep saying that, but really overall my experience was pretty good against my opponent. So again, the initial part of the video, I was just surprised. I was extremely caught off guard. A lot of the people said they watched my videos, but I sat down with them, so it was really cool to see. But they just battled it out, and a lot of surprise Cassians at the end, which I couldn't really play around, ended up giving them the win. The next one was another Han blue. Oh, that's right. It was 4 Han blue, or 4 Hans day 2, 2 Hans day 1. That's what it was. Again, another battle. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but again, these matchups really just came down to, did I have an early play to abuse their Ogdo Bogdo or Ezra's with a high low bottom force or shielded, or just kind of put them off the force? If I did, it would be really good for me. If I power the Dark Sword turn 2, that type of stuff is what I was looking for, right? And if I was able to do that, it would give me the win, guaranteed. And then if they were able to put enough damage on, because I would outvalue them later, if they were to put the damage on early, they would win with Crate Dragons. That's literally every single game. That's how it went. The more exciting match was up against Guy here in round 5. I believe that's how you say his name. If I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. But it was against this Kylo Ren Tarkin Town deck, which the Bothan Network kind of theory crafted, and well, they all brought. It was incredible. I sat down and I immediately was like, is this matchup unfavorable for you? It looks kind of rough for you. And he's like, I honestly don't know. Turns out that was a completely wrong misinterpretation on my part, because it was not unfavorable for him. I've since played a lot more matches up against Kylo Ren just in my free time, just to see how it plays out. This deck is super aggressive. And if you don't have early Sentinels, or you're playing around them and you're really kind of getting those units down, and it has to be not just early Sentinels, but also Sentinels that are going to get through after they've targeted down your units away, you are going to struggle. Because the way this works is they have MIGs to discard cards with Kylo, kind of getting free value, knocking out your early units, or just putting on damage, and then they finish you off with a Kylo deploy. That's kind of how it works. Get in early damage, leverage the fact they have Force Throw, Force Lightning, and all this other removal, so they can chip at you just a little bit of damage here and there. And then the way the first game went was Guy deployed Kylo, and it was like Snapshot Reflexes, Sith Holocron, Battle Fury, and hit me for 19 or whatever the amount. 15? What is it? Sith Holocron's 3, another Sith Holocron's 3, so that's 6. Kylo's 5, so that's 11. Snapshot's 12, and then Battle Fury is 3, so that's 15. And then he finishes me off with, Devastators and Ruthless Raiders and that type of stuff. Both games, that's or the first game, that's kind of what ended up happening. Lots of direct damage, MIGs early to knock out some HP on my base, and then finish me off with Kylo deploy. That game, he had 2 MIGs, which is one of the best cards in the deck, so it was a really big struggle. Game 2, I actually brought in the Aggrieved Parliamentarian, which I was hoping that I could actually play this out to where I win game 2, but I mis-sequenced the final turn of the game. So it was turn 5, and my opponent had 6 resources up. I saw their discard pile, and they claimed initiative on 6 resources after I had used all but 2 of my resources in order to, basically try to make sure that he claimed initiative so that he could, in theory, one-shot me. That's what he was going for. But I claimed, knowing I had the Aggrieved Parliamentarian, shuffling his discard pile back. So I kind of made him waste 6 resources. Not make him, but he made the decision to claim because he saw he had lethal on board with a Kylo deploy, with Snapshot Reflexes, Sith Holocron, all that stuff. Despite that, we moved on to the Kylo deploy turn, where he discarded Heroic Resolve, and I had a decision. I had 9 resources, I believe it was. I can't remember exactly, but I have 9 resources. I had like a Power of the Dark Side. I had Darth Vader in hand. He had Lom Pike on the board. He attacks with Lom Pike to get in some damage into the base. And I had a decision. Okay, what do I do? If he deploys Kylo, at the time I didn't know he had Heroic Resolve in hand. But if he deploys Kylo, I can kill him with my Vader on board, which Lom Pike had a shield on it. So the new Vader, that is. So I kill Kylo, kill the unit. But if he gets an attack with Kylo, it's basically game over because he probably has some sort of direct damage in hand. What ended up happening was, okay, in order to stall actions, I'll play out a Vader. I'm going to play a Vader. Hopefully I hit a Pike Sentinel, and then I'm sitting back with a Sentinel, and I should be okay. But what ended up happening was I did that, missed on Sentinel. He discarded Heroic Resolve, and I'm sitting there like, oh crap. What I should have done was just attack base and attack base. Because the other thing that happened, and this is where I think he's really intelligent at how he plays, was I had a Kira on board with 6 damage on it. And of course, with Grit, it's a 6/2. He played Force Lightning for 1 resource to get rid of the Grit, so that my Kira couldn't knock out his Kylo Ren after I had played the Darth Vader. And so that kind of messed up my math as well. I was like, okay, if I miss on Sentinel, I could kill the Kylo with Kira and I should be okay. That was completely wrong. So he deploys Kylo, puts Heroic Resolve on it, hits me for 9 because he uses the Heroic Resolve trigger, and then finished me off with Devastator next turn. So I end up losing. Definitely a little bit of a miss sequence. I think I could have played that a little bit differently. I think it still would have been close, but I think I could have brought him to game 3, and then who knows what would have happened afterwards. Regardless, that was completely my fault. He played amazingly, and definitely a solid showing from him. I just ended up misplaying. On to the next two, I ended up fighting against double Talzin. So Talzin and Townsend. Again, Mog TC was an absolutely amazing opponent. We had a good time. He had Devastators in his Talzin list, which not everyone did, and that was a little bit scary. He almost finished me off with a bunch of direct damage, and in game 2 he did. So that was a pretty close back and forth. And well, Townsend is pretty weak up against the controlling decks overall. So I think that matchup was definitely favored towards me. And I don't think he had really much of a choice in that matchup, although the Devastators did give him a little bit of an edge, more so than other Townsends out there. Speaking of, in round 7, we had another Townsend red. This game, honestly, I got very lucky. Very lucky. I don't think my opponent or I made really many mistakes. But game 3, my opponent missed 3 resource play and a 4 resource play. He literally just claimed. That's it. That was just an immediate win, basically, for me. Despite that, it actually was way closer than it should have been, probably, because I also drew a little bit poorly later on in the game. But that said, he missed his turn 2 and turn 3 play. It was game over at that point, pretty much, for him. So I felt bad for him in the match. I could see the look on his face. He was like, yep, that's probably game over. And I was thinking the same thing. I was like, yep, that's probably game over. But that's just because he literally missed his turn 2 and turn 3 play. It's not even like he had other things to play. I mean, he could have force throwed, but he didn't have a unit on board as far as I saw, or I didn't have a unit on board. I can't remember the exact composition of the early turns. I think he had Force Lightning and something else in his hand. He did mulligan, so it was like a mulligan into that hand. It's not like he chose to keep that hand, so it was just an unfortunate situation. And then lastly, to prevent me from getting to day 3, it was another Kylo Data Vault. The deck I was trying to avoid all weekend, and it was just not even a competition. I didn't have restock. Game 1, we played very fast. I want to applaud my opponent here, by the way. I play very fast in general. Like, that's just how I like to play. And my opponent played incredibly fast as well. We managed to get through 2 like mill out control games in like 20 minutes. It was awesome. So game 1, we played the matchup where he had 3 vigilance in main. I had 2 vigilance, and he just kind of milled me out beforehand, and I lost. Game 2, we played the game. I told him halfway through, because I was joking. I was like, because I had annihilated his, was it Long Pike? I think it was. And then I was searching through his hand and deck, and I said, if I saw restock in your hand, I would just concede, because my only chance here is to mill out the restock. And so he didn't have restock. I played a couple more turns. I tried to vigilance him. I didn't hit restock. And then he goes, if I show you restock right now, is that good enough? He's like, and then he's like, well, I'll just show you. So he had restock in hand. I look at my deck. I had 1 more vigilance in my deck. He had a vigilance in his deck. He had restock. There was literally no chance of me winning the game. Just no chance. Because not only did I have restock, he also had 7 cards in his hand. So even if I played out my Relentless, which I sided in, it wouldn't have won me the game, because he could have used multiple powers, since I knew he had them, since I looked at his hand, to finish off my Relentless, and I would have lost regardless. So I conceded to him because there was no chance of me winning. The decks were already really small. I think there was like 15 cards or so in the deck. It was just a matter of time, especially since he had more cards in his deck than I did, and he had restock, and he had the opportunity to get more vigilance, right? So a little bit unfortunate there. I say unfortunate, but realistically, it was because I didn't side in a restock. Even if I had restock, it still would have been a really tough matchup, but that's just kind of the nature of the game. So I was dodging Kylo Ren all day. Well, I shouldn't say all day, because Geet also took me out with a Kylo matchup. But I was trying to dodge Kylo, and I ended up getting 2 Kylos, which was definitely more than what the field represented. But also, I fought against way more Hans than the field represented. So that's just the nature of a competitive, tournament, right? Sometimes you get the matchups you want, and your deck's not going to be great against every matchup. You just hope that you have a fighting chance. And because of the way I built my sideboard, I didn't really have a fighting chance against Kylo Data Vault. So I was just hoping not to fight Data Vault Kylo specifically. And I did not dodge it enough, I suppose. So that was totally my fault. I should have thought about that. Again, I hadn't played against a control mirror in a while, so totally my fault. It is what it is. I got greedy, and I was like, it didn't even cross my mind. It had been a while since I've used restock, so I wasn't thinking like really hard on it. I was like, should I put a restock in here? Nah. And that was like the thought of my process, or my thought process. It wasn't really in depth into like what I was actually thinking about seeing, and how I wasn't really thinking about how each matchup would play out. As well, I was too busy prepping videos rather than actually prepping for the tournament. So that, I guess you could say, is totally my fault, as it is. That said, I missed out on day 3. I was winning in, and I lost and out, unfortunately. That said, I was very happy with my overall ranking. If I were to pop in, let me see if I can find out the let's see, day 2. Oh, that's late deck submission. Hold on. Let me pull up the standings here. And at the end of the day, we're ranked 99. And I am proud of that. I'm not disappointed in myself at all. I do think there were some mistakes I made, but I don't linger on them. I think I performed very well. I went and grinded day 1. Most of the players on day 2, or I shouldn't say most, but a lot of the players on day 2 didn't have to grind through day 1. And so I had a 6-1 record into a 5-3 record, total 11-4. I am totally happy with that. I'm up there with Pascal Maynard and some of the other people out there, like some of the KTOD members. So I think I performed very well, and I am very happy with it. I do want to mention, yes, overall I had a great experience, and most of the games were great. Earlier I mentioned about the cheating accusation, and yes, that did damper my excitement. But it didn't damper it just because, I was playing opponents and I truly did something very suspicious. And they're reporting me because honestly, judges, they did everything right. They should have privately investigated me, and they did. They acquitted me. And that's great. I didn't cheat. And so that was all great. And honestly, if you think someone's cheating, you should, tell a judge. No one else, just the judge. Make it a very private thing. So that they can conduct their investigation without any corruption of it. The thing that I was off put by mainly was when the head judge had said, yeah, just in case, someone's, targeting you and you see like a post on Reddit tomorrow. That's kind of what off put me. It gave me the impression that someone was specifically targeting me. And that what felt a little bit unfortunate, just because I was in the competitive scene for like the first time in Star Wars Unlimited history, and I was winning a couple games. That's the thing that kind of put me off. So overall, though, it was a good time. So I'm very happy with that. But now we get to talk about the overall event and what that was like. So now that we've gone through all of the competitive aspect, my day 1 and day 2 were entirely consumed by the main event for the most part. I tried my best to walk around during each, round and meet as many people as I possibly could. And I did get to see a lot of people, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. But overall, the event, so I did day 3 get to involve myself with a lot of the complaints of the event. I want to say overall with the Galactic Championship, the main event was run extremely smoothly. The judges did a great job. Staff did a great job. Every round proceeded very regularly. And basically every single day we got done about 8 p.m. Around that time in terms of main event. So that was really good. And it started relatively on time. Everything was running relatively smoothly for the main event. And I was pretty happy with that. I think the main event, actual experience was really good. The biggest problem that most people had was with the prize wall and the side events. Now, day 1, the side event line was absolutely miserable. And you can even see here the absolute shenanigans that these lines were. I mean, there were lines running down and back and snaking through the entire building. And it was really tough. And it was a little bit disorganized. People didn't really know where to go. They finally ended up splitting the lines based on what you wanted to play. So like draft, sealed, premiere, which should have been done initially. So I get why people were annoyed with it. And the prize line, you can even see over here, it was backed up, especially on day 3. It truly was a line simulator, as many people were joking about. I wonder if I could find a post here, but it was like a 2-hour to 3-hour line. It was disgusting. Fortunately, by the end of it, I was able to use my prize tickets. There's another portion of the prize wall that I felt was definitely overlooked, and that was we had these badges with QR codes on them, and they would scan it. Oh, this was a pretty funny one with the Empire Strips Back. Yeah, little meme post there, but there was a bunch of people abusing the prize wall for money. And anytime that is a possibility, you have a problem. What people were doing were buying Super Laser Blast and then going to the card vendors literally across the room and then selling them for money. So they were grinding side event tickets, buying a bunch of the promo cards, selling them. People were, instead of picking up one copy of Vader and one copy of Luke, which each one was 3,000 or together 5,000 side event tickets, they were just buying double Vaders. This shouldn't be a thing. I've played it in a bunch of Magic tournaments, and one of the things that is very consistent across a lot of tournaments is they limit to what kind of prizes you could acquire, and if there are limited promo options, they want everyone to have a piece. So what should have been in place, in my opinion, is the fact that if you're getting a showcase, you have to get one Luke and one Vader. You can't double up on the Vaders, because what people were doing was getting double Vader and selling one online or selling one to the vendors. And you can only get one copy. You can't get multiple copies. Same with the promo cards. Super Laser Blast was the chase. You should be limited to a playset at most, and they should be able to track it through the QR code on your badge. These are the types of things that should have been in place initially to avoid these like prize farming fiascos. It completely takes the spirit of the event away when you have people grinding out events just to make a little bit of cash. I don't mind if people are selling off their cards. Not a big deal. Like if you want to get your playset and sell it out, not a big deal. But if you're grinding the event to get 30 or 40, I mean, there were stories that people are picking up like 50 Super Laser Blasts and then selling them. Like you don't need 50 Super Laser Blasts. Okay, you're never going to play that many. That is for the intention of selling them. So I do wish that was just managed a little bit differently. I do think that's very, very valid criticism, and I think a lot of people are feeling the same way, because there are people like myself that, well, day 1 and day 2 I was playing in the main event. I didn't really have time to go, and I couldn't even get my prize tickets because I had to finish out day 2. By the time day 3 rolled around, I would have had to sit in a 2.5-hour line after showing up at about 9:30 to get my prizes. By the time I could have finished out the line, I wouldn't have been able to get a showcase anyways. And I didn't get a showcase Vader and Luke because they were all out. So even if I wanted to get those showcases, and, you know, I mean, I did want them, but it wasn't like a main goal of mine. My main goal was to say hi to everyone and play in the main event. If I wanted to get my showcases, I wouldn't be able to, because I played in day 1 and day 2. I didn't have the prize tickets to go cash in for the showcase. By the time I picked up my prizes at the end of, or the beginning of day 3, I couldn't even sit in the line and get it. So I went home with a bunch of booster boxes and packs. That's what I cashed out on, which is fine. Those should be unlimited for anyone. If you want a bunch of booster packs and boxes, that's kind of the product of the game. Those should be unlimited, but the promos and stuff should have been limited to a playset per player and one copy of the showcase per person. That's, at least in my opinion, so you didn't have a bunch of people. And the same thing applies to the mats and all the other people who are double or triple dipping in. Like, people shouldn't be able to accumulate more and more of the same mat if they are going and picking up, because they ran out of stock. People couldn't pick up certain mats. People couldn't pick up showcases. People couldn't pick up the promo that they wanted because there were some bad actors, in my opinion. So that was a little bit disappointing. So the prize wall definitely was a huge shenanigans, and a lot of people were disappointed in that. The other kind of controversy over the weekend was the releasing of the deck list. Like I mentioned, you guys got to see the decks for day 2. What happened was, in the transition of the event from day 1 and day 2, the deck lists were revealed for a short period of time. People took images of the decks, and some select few got access to more information than others. As a result, FFG decided to release the decks fully to everyone. One of the big things there is, for me, honestly, I would have preferred initially, before the event even started, if they were open deck lists, that's how I'm used to playing in Magic. I do think it's a little bit more of a skillful way to play competitive games, is to have access to the deck list and knowing what you're able to play around. That said, I absolutely feel for those players that came to this tournament expecting closed deck lists to catch people off guard with what they're playing. Take in our case in point, the Kylo Tarkin Town that the Bothan Network brewed up, and people were not expecting what they're trying to do. So this is something that I think really was unfortunate. I don't know if there's a right answer. Like, they could have kept the deck list not revealed, and a lot of people would be missing information, and then a select few would advantage from it. But releasing the deck lists was giving everyone a even playing field, even though it kind of disrupted the overall strategy of what some people were trying to do. So I don't know if I have a right answer. I think it's just kind of an unlucky moment, and the judges were just kind of screwed over no matter what decision they made. So it is what it is. I can't really fault them for revealing the deck lists. I don't know if there's really a better option. Again, that was just something that hopefully in the future they could avoid the Melee deck list reveal, I guess, is for the future. I don't know if that was like a technical mishap, and maybe that was the thing that they could have avoided. I don't really know enough about Melee and how the programs function to determine whether or not there is a solution for that, but I guess that's where I would end up. Lastly, the people. This is a picture of a few of the patrons that I got at the end of day 3 after we did our draft. The stage in the background, it was absolutely amazing to get to see all the people that I've been communicating and playing tournaments with in the Patreon in person. It was absolutely amazing to see all of you and to, hear how you did in the tournaments and share stories and all that stuff. It was just a great, great time. And past that, there were so many people that came up and said hi, and that my videos meant a lot to them. And I think the biggest point of feedback that I wanted to share with all of you that I received was that the attitude I had with playing the games and the overall kind of theme of my channel, which was pick up a deck and play it and have some fun, was what you all enjoyed the most. And I want to assure you, even though this video was, kind of had a negative title, because that's unfortunately, your brain kind of defaults to the negativity, and that's kind of what my brain defaulted to after hearing that. But as I had reflected more and more, it was an overwhelming positive experience for the weekend. And that's kind of what my channel is intended to be. It's supposed to be a place where a lot of people can come in, have a good time. You could probably pick up the deck and do just as well as I did, because as I said, I make a bunch of mistakes on the videos, and we're here to have some fun. So it was awesome to see a bunch of people, comment that and let me know. I had a bunch of people saying that their kids and them watch together, and that, I'm a pretty family-friendly guy. I'm not swearing in my videos. I don't do anything too crazy or not family-friendly, because I got a couple little ones here. So that's just kind of the attitude that I have. So it was just kind of awesome to see that and to hear that feedback from you all. And like I said, there was not a single person that I felt was negative, face-to-face to me. So it was all behind the scenes, if there was any. I even got to meet some of the other creators, Rebel Resource, Mobius, Bobby Sapphire. I don't know their real names. I know some of their real names, and some of them I got to meet Woo. I got to meet Mark TCG and a bunch of other bucket heads. I got to meet a bunch of people, and every single one of them was great. The KTOT members that I saw, they ran over to me and they were like, yo, I gotta snap a picture. Bobby ran over, he's like, I gotta snap a picture with my favorite YouTuber, of course jokingly. I don't know if that picture was for one of the recap videos that he's making or what, but shout out to them. Every single person was great that I interacted with. I didn't get to interact with a lot of the people all that long, specifically the other creators. I just wanted to say hi and introduce myself in person. There are a few of you out there that I got to stop by and sign some cards for. I know I signed some cards for a couple of children out there that were just super fun, and I got to take pictures with a bunch of you, but it was a good time. And at the end of the day, my overall experience was a good one. A lot of people had amazing things to say, and I had a very, very good experience, even in the competitive side of things. Like, even though that whole fiasco happened, I still had a positive experience with the matchups I played. So, all in all, attend the next Galactic Championship, guys. It was an event of a lifetime. I was very fortunate to be able to go to the very first one in Star Wars Limited history, and I have plans to go to the next one. I also have plans to, not that I have anything concrete, but this gentleman in the middle owns a store in Atlanta. Check it out, guys. I might try to kind of see if I could work out something where we could maybe host an in-person tournament, and I could call out for everyone, and I'll fly down there sometime during the year. So really, really cool stuff. It was really awesome to see everyone, and I have nothing but positive things to say about the people I interacted with. The judges were great. The staff was pretty great. The people were great, and the matches were great for the most part. So that's my experience at the Galactic Championship. Hopefully a lot of you had a similar experience, and hopefully you all had a good chance of bringing whatever deck you brought. Hopefully something better than I brought. I know a lot of people were dumping on Kira because they're like, she's not good anymore. She's out of the meta. But I performed pretty well with her, so I felt like it was a solid choice, even though it may not be the best choice. But I'm happy, and I'm happy with my results. I'm happy with the people I was able to meet. I'm happy with the overall event. I just think there's a good amount of improvement to be made for next year, and I hope that FFG takes our criticism and improves the next one to make it a truly amazing event. I don't know if I'll be able to play in the next one, just because I don't know if I'm going to get enough Pro Tour point or Galactic Champions points to actually participate, just because I don't get to attend the PQs and all that stuff. So I was really hoping to be able to make day 3, so that I could try to guarantee myself an invite to next year's. We'll see. Maybe I'll try to drive out or fly out to other planetary qualifiers to try to qualify for the Galactic Championship next year. But that said, the channel here, it's for some fun. So expect the next few days to go over some of the meta decks, some of the actual tournament happenings, and maybe play some of them and have some good times. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching the videos. It was surreal to be able to meet all of you. And I will see you all for tomorrow's video.